Let me introduce now one of the most competent people the Albanians have the pleasure to have on their side. My wife and the Balkan Affairs Advisor to the Albanian American Civic League, Shirley Cloyes. Ran a publishing house for 10 years. She works day and night. Nobody pays her. This is her volunteer. She's looking for justice for the Albanian people the way you are. And Shirley, thank you for all you do. Thank you.
We're lucky to have DioGuardi, as you know. Yeah, Brahma, thank you very, very much. It's wonderful to be back in Detroit. It's wonderful to be in this beautiful church. Many thanks to Father Chira for giving us this opportunity tonight. And thanks very much to Maris Sulai, one of the most valuable members of our board of directors. Zepta Ivana is the other member of, our board of directors from Detroit. Thank you to you and to everyone who helped make this possible. As I was flying to Detroit in the plane, I was thinking about what it means to be Albanian and what it means to be American and how important that status is. I think you'd all agree, despite the problems of living in America, this is the world's greatest living experiment in democracy. In America, you can be Albanian and American. In the United States, you can speak Albanian and you can speak English. In America, you can fly your Albanian flag and your American flag, whether it's in the privacy of your home or in public. In America, you can express your political views openly, whatever they are, about the U.S. system and about the realities of Albanians in the Balkans. In America, you can influence the debate about Albanians in the Balkans and what our government is doing. And you can do all of this without fear of arrest, torture, imprisonment, expulsion, and genocide, the reality of the Albanian people for the last 125 years. And the tragedy today, as you know, is that this is not the history in the Balkans, and for many Albanians, this is still not something that they can enjoy. That fear of arrest, torture, imprisonment, and genocide persists. And that's why I believe that Albanian Americans have a very, very special responsibility, opportunity, and obligation. It is our responsibility to resolve the Albanian national cause in our time, to do what our sisters and brothers in the Balkans are unable to do. It's our responsibility and obligation to go to the United States, to Americans who are not Albanian, and to help them to understand that in a global society, all the solutions and all of the problems are integrated. What's happening in the Balkans does affect Americans. What's happening in the Balkans is, we must tell Mr. Bush, in the vital interests of the United States. And as Senator Joe Biden, someone I think you all can appreciate for many reasons, said in Chicago last year when we were visiting the Albanian community, every time the United States fails to understand the need for united, whole, undivided Europe, we pay the price. We pay the price in American blood. Our economy falters. And he said, until we realize that we must honor and protect the ethnic legitimacy of Albanians, all of the pieces in the region will fall apart and we will pay dearly. So now we have to look at where we are today. And for me, again, as Albanians and Americans, we have a special obligation to prevent war. And for me, there has never been, and I don't know what you're thinking out there, but for me, the possibility of war has never been greater. And one of the reasons that possibility has never been greater is something that we have failed to do. If it were not for Učica, Kosovo would not be free today, at least to the extent that it is. But if we don't carry on the next phase of the war, which has always been the real war, and this is what we're not doing now, Albanians will go back into the backwater of history. The real battlefield is not on the ground, as Joe said before. It's information. The real battlefield is in the press and the parliaments of the world. We have to remember and I hope we all have a very long memory. We're going to need it. We have to remember that it was only for a short period of time, in 1998, when Milosevic attacked Granica and went across raping and pillaging and murdering Kosovo in 1998 and 1999, for that short period of time when the world saw Albanians being put on trains in cattle cars and sent to Blace and other camps. For a short period of time when Albanians were being murdered before the eyes of the world, the 125-year reality of the Albanian fight against genocide came into the spotlight and to the fore, and people for a brief period of time understood. But I'm sorry, I'm afraid we're back now to where we were a long time ago in 1913. Albanians once again at the mercy of the so-called great powers, not just the Serbs and the Greeks and the Russians, but Western Europe and even in the United States. And if we don't act now, in my opinion, Albanian reality and our brothers and the sisters in the Balkans will go back into the backwater of history for another 125 years. And we will have lost the cause forever. And if we do, yes, America and Europe, you will pay dearly. So now, let's look at, I think, if we're going to go forward and we're going to act, we have to understand something about where we've come from and what's going on and who the actors are. I just read something great the other day. Daniel Boorstin, who's a really well-known American historian, said, if you prepare for the future without having a sense of history or understanding the present, it's like planting cut flowers. And that's exactly where I think we're kind of at this point. How is it that we can forget that for 50 years, Albania was closed out to the world under Enver Hoxha. All of the other Albanian lands were under, hostile communist regimes. And for 50 years, it was the Slavs that went through the United States, its government, its academies, the same in the West, interpreting Albanian reality, interpreting reality in the Balkans. This is what we still haven't come to grips with today. So let's start with the United States. Who are our actors now? We have the United States, we have Western Europe, we have our Albanian politicians, and we have the diaspora. Let's start with our wonderful government. It's tragic. We have a State Department, it doesn't matter what administration, with only a few people who were exceptions, and I think the only exception I'll make in this last period is Madeleine Albright. We have a State Department consistently tied to Belgrade. And we start with Baker and Eagleberger and Scowcroft. These are just, the first actors on the stage, and then Holbrooke. And all of them have been governed in their actions by a Belgrade-centered mentality. So what did that mean in the beginning, at the start of the wars in the Balkans with Milosevic? We had Mr. Baker saying we have no dog in this fight. And at the same time, we had Mr. Baker saying, oh, but wait a minute, Yugoslavia has to stay together at all costs. Oh, Yugoslavia is a sovereign territory. We can't touch the territory of Yugoslavia. And we see the same unbroken pattern. We have Eagleberger, who spent years in Belgrade and made lots of money off Yugo cars and other business interests. We had Eagleberger, Baker, and Scowcroft working with Mr. Milosevic in the banking industry. So this is our history in America. We have to go back and look at that, and we have to come to grips with the fact that the State Department has never been the ally of Albanians. Again, there were good people in the State Department, and they need to be acknowledged. We have some people, we have 5 people, in fact, in the State Department who resigned because of the concealed concentration camps in Bosnia. But we have to understand our system in America. Fortunately, there's always a silver lining in every problem, I say. We have a Congress, we have a system of checks and balance, and we have members of Congress willing to stand up and oppose our State Department, our administration's policies, and you saw one of those very important people tonight on the screen, Tom Lantos. Now, isn't it interesting? Let's look for a second, very briefly, at what our State Department policies have brought us to from the time Milosevic started his wars of aggression for 10 years to today.